Got Chapter 8 to cover, but you guys really came through with the questions last time, so I'll try to answer as many of them as I can. Thank you so much for that, by the way. You guys are great. Certainly the shortest episode in the volume, but one that's non-stop action from start to finish. Got 2 chapters in here, 9 and 10. I printed an entire page for this. No cutaways to other plot threads either. Redux Chapter 8 is 100% Blake. One of our contributions, albeit a subtle one at times, is in the pacing of the fights. The action was pretty solid in the original, but it was occasionally held back by characters waiting for the designated RPG turn order. Simple things like removing this shot of Ilya staring at her weapon, or having Fennec start screaming from off-screen really helped to maintain the momentum. Other than that, we essentially play out the story beats exactly as the original did, with only a few additions of our own. Like Fennec. A lot of people were confused as to why he exploded when some debris fell on top of him, but thankfully for us, there is a canon explanation for it. When his weapon is crushed, the dust inside of it reacts and goes All we had to do to realize that intention was insert a cutaway of the weapon rupturing, toss in some sound design, and now it's immediately clear what happens. I love this so much. Another creative liberty we took in this chapter was at the very end. There was a bit of dead air before Blake's sigh, and I was wondering if we could make her sigh a response to something. Enter Nectis Noir. They were so vocal and loud in our comments that they managed to bleed into the edit itself. I jest, of course. They were great to work with, and they voiced all of these crowd lines. Thank you for your help, Nectis. Just try and go easy on us for the next 2 chapters, okay? We did our best. Sun no longer draws attention to Blake's attack before it happens. I'm detecting something of a pattern here. Fennec's weapon makes a charge-up noise before it fires. Ilya's whip can be heard crunching the wood when it pierces the floor. There's a little bass drop when Ilya turns down the lights, even though Random Words doesn't like it. Sorry, you were outvoted in the Discord poll. A couple floor scrapes, Blake loading a new cartridge into her weapon, restored some missing footsteps. I also modified the directionality of the audio during this line to make it sound like Ilya moves around behind you.
Why couldn't you just leave? Why couldn't you just leave?
The highlights of the fire overexpose the image now as if it were filmed by a real camera. And lastly, Gira no longer tries to stop Blake from talking. I don't know. Alright, first question. What were the most immediate changes you knew you had to make to the volume? Defragmentation. I've been talking about this intermittently over the course of the volume, but Redux Chapter 8 is one of the clearest examples of this. In the original, Blake gets ambushed, we cut to the house, Gira growls, the chapter ends. But hold on, we gotta see what Raven's doing. We spend 8 minutes at the bandit camp before we can get another glimpse at the conflict in Menagerie. Some people get slashed, Blake swoops in and runs off, Sun and Gira charge towards the camera. Hold up, back to Raven for a few minutes. She flies away, we get this scene, and then finally we return to Blake. Alright, let's go! Chapter 10 opens with Crow talking with Ozpin, they get a phone call, we visit Raven one last time, and then at long last, the rest of the chapter sticks with Blake as we conclude the Belladonna siege. As with Redux Chapter 2, the simple act of consolidation has a tremendous impact on the pacing. Chapter 8 is a fast, climactic, and in my opinion, satisfying conclusion to the Menagerie storyline. You mentioned you were developing this before Volume 8 came out. Does that mean you've been working on this project for 4 years? Sort of. Not continuously, but yeah, we started working on the project in 2020. We even had a rough cut, and it was terrible. When me or Random Words got too busy to continue, we would put it down for a while, then pick it up sometime later, usually around 6 months. The problem with that approach is that our quality standards were and still are something of a moving target. Every time we picked it up again, we would dislike the previous choices we made, weren't happy with the scene order, found the pacing too fast, or hated the way the music jumps. Between our 2 machines, we lacked pretty much any sensible way of organizing our hard drives, making every attempt to revive the project start with a desperate search for the most up-to-date copies of project files. The sound mix for both chapters 6 and 9 vanished entirely and had to be rebuilt from the ground up. And on top of everything, migrating from Adobe to DaVinci Resolve, which is one of the best decisions we ever made, run away while you still can, caused a bunch of problems of its own, notably breaking some of the VFX compositions. Thankfully, the final stretch after announcing the release date has easily been the most focused and organized we've ever been, and I genuinely can't imagine this project getting finished without it. With the new scene order, there wasn't really a spot for this shootout that transitioned neatly into the surrounding material, and taking it out does diminish Kali's role in the story somewhat, although showing her competence with a firearm in Chapter 7 certainly helps to sell the idea that she could actually defeat Batman in a fight. And we also got a minor continuity error. Blake's not holding her weapon, then suddenly she is, though the camera cuts do help to disguise this a little bit. And with that, the simple parts of Redux come to an end. Not to imply it was easy, just simple. At least in comparison to the final act. These next 2 chapters were the hardest to do by a country mile, and I can guarantee that some people are not gonna like it. Couple more questions before I close out. I'm curious if you guys will be utilizing AI voice software to change some lines in the show. Nope. You said Rooster Teeth gave you permission to pursue this project. What were the terms of that? Okay, well, technically speaking, Rooster Teeth didn't give us permission or officially endorse this project, but their support team has been really diligent about making sure our videos get unblocked when they get targeted by Content ID. We adhere to their usage guidelines and they keep our videos up. A mutual respect you're unlikely to form with other companies. If your project follows the usage guidelines but gets blocked anyways, send an email to fanprojects@roosterteeth.com and they'll probably sort it out for you. The guidelines are in the description. Thank y'all for watching. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm just gonna brace myself for the Haven arc by curling into a little ball.